Roger, watching TVC Breakfast. Now, after weeks of speculations and anxiety, the long-awaited ministerial list was released on Thursday by President Bola Tinubu, beating the 2-month deadline. The list, which was presented by the President's Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, contained 28 names comprising of former governors, lawmakers, technocrats who are expected to help the President achieve his renewed hope agenda for Nigeria. Now, today, the Senate is expected to scrutinize and screen the character and ability of every nominee to ensure he or she aligns with the President's agenda for the country. Now, Nigerians are still anticipating more nominees to be released by the President in coming days. Before we dive into the discussion, let's refresh your mind in this package to when the President released the 28 ministerial nominees.
The Senate suspends its standing rule to admit a special visitor into the chamber. The Chief of Staff to Mr. President, Femi Gbajabiamila, is ushered into the Senate's plenary session to present President Tinubu's list of ministerial nominees.
Reading taken.
President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, then proceeds to call out the 28 names of the ministers designate as contained in the executive communication.
Of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward to the Senate for confirmation the underlisted 28 ministerial nominees. 1. Abubakar Momo, Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Chuka, CON. 3. Architect Ahmad Dangiwa. 4. Barrister Hanatu Musawa. 5. Chief Uche Naji. 6. Dr. Beta Edu.
Reacting to the content of President Tinubu's ministerial nominees, lawmakers commend the president for meeting the deadline. However, they say the screening of the nominees would not be business as usual.
I believe that by this weekend, we'll have the CVs. But I'm personally pleased with the caliber of men and women that have been nominated. But we can only conclude when we screen them. And if we find them worthy, why not? We'll confirm them. If we don't find them worthy, we're not going to confirm them.
Our business is to screen them, and then those who will be able to pass our screening should take a bow.
All these names you submitted, what are they going to do? Let's not approve people to become ministers and we take square pegs and put in round holes. We want to match them with their capacities.
The Senate has a tradition that if you were once a senator, you would have been screened to become a senator, and so that suffices. But in any case, it doesn't stop any senator from asking the relevant questions where it becomes necessary.
At the nick of time, President Bola Tinubu's ministerial list got to the National Assembly, but the wait is not over yet as more names will be sent in due course. Also, the ball is now in the court of the Senate to screen these ministers and allow President Tinubu inaugurate the Federal Executive Council. Tijesu Adeoye, TVC News, Abuja.
Joining us in the studio is convener Campaign for Dignity in Governance, Razak Olokoba. It's nice to have you join us.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
Welcome. Great. And we also have lawyer, political analyst, Adedotun Ajolo. It's nice to have you join us this morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Dotun. Welcome. Great. Now, today is the D-Day for for screening of the ministerial nominees, and Nigerians, all the while, there was pressure on the presidency. Will he beat the 60 days deadline? One will just less than about 24 hours to go. They beat the deadline, but the list was not complete, as Nigerians would have expected. 41 or 42 names, and somehow we're still expecting about 11 or 13 or 12, thereabout, depending on what lists are given. Well, let me start with you, Razak. What do you make of the fact that there was a delay up until the last minute and then the lists were not complete?
Thank you very much, Mike. The important thing is that we should be giving the right person. It needs to be meticulous. And accuracy and precision matters at the point we are in our life. I have always cherished what APC does in terms of a challenging moment like this. And that is why other political parties, we have to learn from them. They have an internal mechanism on how to resolve their crisis. At the point at which the chairman just left, the secretary just left, you should have time to talk about a list of nominees for ministerial appointment. If you place it side by side with other political parties, they may not be talking about ministerial list now. They may be begging for more time. So, and that is why the capacity they have to do that should also be put to play in the remaining names. I won't encourage anybody to say that they should rush in getting more names to it. The time we need people who understand the job most in our life is now. So any few days, one more week that will require the man to do a 4-year job may not be bad. So for me, I am okay for a few more days, for one more week. I don't know what the loss is, but I am sufficiently informed to know that once we get the first stage to be the deadline, others can then follow. No law has been broken already. So we have a lawyer here to put more light on that. But as political scientists, I understand that the end was always justify the means. What's the need for the rush? People say you have so many. There are things that emerge on a daily basis. And the way we structure the political space in Nigeria is in such a way that a lot of people might be doing investigation about all the ministerial lists. Petition might be flying in. So party officials will be very careful in pushing aside the petition, only for you to emerge after one month or 2 months in office. So for me, and it's the same Nigerians that will come back, you didn't do your work very well. So I want the party to be meticulous. The point we are now is not point for excuse again. Every minute counts in Nigeria. We're talking about devolution of power. That there's no guarantee for Nigeria to prosper if they don't devolve power to stay to be stronger than the center. So attention is focused on that. There's ECOWAS angle, which I've just discussed here again, which is also another thing that will determine the success of this government. Because all our effort, all this while, in the ECOMOG, strengthening the ECOMOG, is about to resurface its head again. And for people who sell guns all over the world, it's not only France. Every gun seller all over the world are not happy with Nigeria. The way we keep nipping crisis in the border all over Nigeria, when you put up ECOMOG, they are not happy with us. So that challenge is there. So we need people who understand how to do the job. NS is going on strike. So people have an understanding of what to do is what we need. We don't want to rush and do a garbage in and also do a garbage out now. So for me, take a few more days to get the list. And the Senate, we don't want to be disappointed. Let them ask the right question. Let them do the right thing.
We'll come to that because a lot of persons have said, well, I hope we'll be having you take a bow and go, take a bow and go, take a bow. But we'll talk about that because if you listen to what Senator said earlier, they'll be thorough. They use the word thorough.
Yeah.
So we wait to see that. Now, Dr. Still remaining on this issue of delay. By February 25th, that election was concluded and the results came out after that time. Of course, if you've been declared a winner, you know that there are responsibilities. Keep the petitions aside. The point is you've been declared the winner. You look forward to ministers. Of course, it will begin to cross your mind what your cabinet will look like. From from that time until through the inauguration up until now, it's about 5 months thereabout. And Nigerians expect that somebody of the personality of Tinubu should have had that kind of list long ago. But I will wait for you to, I'll give you the chance to respond to this. Let's go on a short break and then we'll come back. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. You're watching TVC Breakfast. On this segment, we're looking at the minister's nominee that, or ministerial nominees that the president has submitted to the National Assembly. It was done last week, and as it is, the screening of those nominees is expected to take place today at the National Assembly complex. And we're looking at all of these issues around it. What are Nigerians expecting from these people, and the composition of the list? Are they satisfied, and what will be the task ahead? These are some of the things we are talking about. And we have Razak Olokoba here with us, as well as Adedotun Ajulo, helping us to make sense of this. All right, now, Dr. I was asking earlier, before we went on the break, that a lot of Nigerians expected that the personality of someone like Tinubu would have had, you know, a list of some of these kind of people shortly after the election, to the level where some people expect that on the day of inauguration, after that inauguration, Nigerians, a day, 2 days, or the week of that inauguration on May 29, that the list of nominees would have been out to hit the ground running and so on. But here we are. It's just now is out.
Well, in my reaction, I'm going to align myself with the very extensive submission of Mr. Olokoba earlier on. The popular saying is that it is not how far, but how well.
How well.
Either you like it or not, the list came out before
the deadline.
Deadline of 60 days. And let me correct an impression. Issue of having 40 names, 40 persons listed as minister, is not a matter of the Constitution.
Okay.
It's not a matter of the Constitution. The basic constitutional requirement is that ministerial appointment from each state of the federation. And maybe if you add the FCT, what we should have is 37. So for whatever it is, the Constitution is not clear about, okay, this deadline, you have to meet it up by submitting 28 names, or going ahead to submit the 36 or 37 names, so to say.
So the number is not a constitutional issue?
It's not a constitutional issue. The issue of number, what the Constitution only required of a constituted presidency is, see, there must be ministers from each state of the federation. So it's not about, okay, there must be 40, there must be 41. There are even arguments, there are issues as to this duplicity in ministries, where you have a substantive minister, you are going to have a state minister. I read this somewhere that this particular government is going to do away with that. And as far as some of us are concerned, there's no even basis for such. So having come this far, all we'll be expecting from this team of persons who have been enlisted is come. Nigeria is in strategic need of those who could take governance head on. Like, it has never been this tense. It has never been this serious. Talking about the economy, talking about the naira devaluation, talking about the dollar inflation, and all of that. So, we've not waited too long, as far as I'm concerned, for us to have these men on board. Now that they've come on board, let us have them taking governance head on. We should have them taking governance head on. So it's not about, thank God for the constitutional amendment. It was a case of having ministerial appointments in this country almost about 6 months after coming into swearing of a president. We've had it in Nigeria now that you see state governors now coming into power, and in 6 months they are not even appointing commissioners and the rest of it. So it's not even about the timing, but it's about coming in and doing what it is expected to salvage the current situation that we're all into. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't have an issue with that. Issue of 2 months, meeting the deadline.
The president has met with the deadline. There is no constitutional requirement that says, so, oh, you have to bring 40 people on board at the same time. For all you care, before the expiration of 4 years, you might have to reshuffle cabinet. You might have to let some persons go to bring in new persons. So it is all about taking it up as fast as possible. Taking the governors on as fast as possible. So for me, I don't have even though I have my reservations about the list, maybe basically what we would expect. Like other Nigerians, I must say that is a reflection of it takes us better than where we are coming from, whether you like it or not. We can see in this cabinet for a very long time we're having someone as young as 36 years old in the cabinet. I think the last we had in the last government was the list was about 44 years old. So in as much as I would have loved to see a cabinet whereby we are not going to have ex-governors forming part of the cabinet, but it is what it is. A lot of things go into play. Before now, we've seen several lists. I won't be surprised if going back to what we saw on social media, your name was listed as one of them. So a lot. So it is what it is. You cannot separate governance from politics. And this is the very first time in the last 16 years that you are going to have it, a cabinet that is being constituted whereby you have persons from the opposition party, in quotes, even though, even persons,
yes, more than one,
even though one will have expected that, okay, if you are talking about national unity, you're forming a unity government. One will have expected that, okay, parties should come on board, party leaders should come on board, let us talk, let us discuss. But don't forget, they are still in court. It's even prejudicial for anybody to say, okay, we are coming to say one. So one will have expected, okay, national unity is about the leader of a Labour Party, the leader of PDP, but it is what it is. Again, as a politician, whatever it is, you are not going to go and bring your enemy on board for whatever it is worth.
Yes.
Persons that you bring from the opposition to form national must be persons that shares your idea. They have a semblance of what government, what you have in terms of idea, in terms of strategy in its head. So a lot of very impressive thing about the list. So for me, the most important thing is the deadline was met with.
Okay.
And we should take governors on from their place.
All right. Okay. Razak, a lot of persons felt that this issue of attaching portfolios to ministerial nominees before it is sent to the House, some people have argued that you would have cleared the way for proper scrutiny and proper narrowing down to the specifics of what you have been selected for. If you are selected to be the Minister of Health, for instance, we dissect the issues around health and all of that. If you're selected to be or nominated to be Minister of Education, and all of that. But it is still the norm of sending lists there. The moment they are approved, bring it back, and then the president begins to, fix who into the box of which ministry, and so on and so forth. What do you make?
Well, it's not important. If you have a strong institution, you don't bother so much about someone who's going to be the head. The institution will tame you, even if you are not qualified. We have had a president in America who may wish to send all immigrants away. But because of the kind of system we have in America, it upheld what they stand for, which is that America is home for everybody, and a model and a standard for the rest of the world to live by. So his personal view did not sail. But if you admit the president of a country that does not have institutions that are strong, and what do I mean by strong institutions? When political class have undue influence over critical sector of governance, when you want to appoint the head, political class will influence it. And that's what we're saying. And once you have limited influence of political class on our institutions, the president will now have to come and replace his IG or replace his chief of army staff. But as long as you have it this way, any president that will come after 8 years, as the case may be 4 or 8 years of Tinubu, he will also sack the idea and sack the army chief because it's an appointee of the previous government. That makes our institution weak. So in Nigeria too, once a political class have a clearer understanding of what the party manifesto is, it can serve in any ministry. Fashola served conveniently as Minister for Works, Labor, and Power. That means that was because he had a clear understanding of what he's coming to do. It's not going to be the engineer that will do the work. So I run a construction company. I'm just an administrator as a personal business. I'm into ecology. So because I built a strong institution, I employ the right person to do my work for me. And that's the case in Nigeria too. That the tool at which we work as a nation, once we have qualified permanent secretaries who understand what you're supposed to do, the only role of the political class, political appointee, is to come and implement the manifesto of the party. The integrity of it should be left to the civil servant. Let me give you a clearer example. If you want to run free education now, anybody can be the minister. You will bring your manifesto that we want free education. How do we succeed? So it's the ministry that will ask me, how do we raise money to do that? So we must not lose that focus that we want free education for Nigeria. So the same thing, too. Any minister can serve anywhere. What you have is the basic understanding of what your party wants. And what the party wants at the moment. What the party wants at the moment, which is central to them, is to build a very virile economy. We're talking about it. We say we run a mixed economy. Of course, we run a capitalist economy. And the capitalist economy, the economic decimal is profit. So expect more privatization. Expect you to pay for virtually everything. Because if you run capitalist economy, you live a kind of lifestyle that is different from socialism. Socialism is about prudency. But capitalism, you can become a billionaire. So if you run that kind of economy, room must be open for you to do business. So if you understand this basic principle of capitalism, of what the government wants, you can start. So it's not necessary for you to attach and quickly, you want to say something, or you want? Can I make this? Can I make land?
Okay, just land.
So
going on the break.
Then on bringing in people from other parties, let's make clarification. Some people, because they have read the long work of freedom of management, they think they have become political scientists. No, what is the theory of the political process we are practicing and does not allow? It's just the magnanimity of our president that makes him bring in people of that party. It's only in parliamentary that you give a portion of votes you have won equal to it in the number of ministers you get in the parliamentary system. In presidential, it's winner takes all. But a magnanimous president like Tinubu will always do that. And like I said, I agree with him. Because I want to be magnanimous, because I want to appear as the father of Nigeria, I will not go and bring my predict to be a minister under my God. I will not do that. I will only bring someone who is mature enough to know that Nigeria first, party aside. And that is what the people that in the list now has demonstrated in the election.
All right. But when we come back, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this opposition members in the cabinet, as the case may be. We've seen from Rivers and also from Oyo State. You're watching TVC Breakfast. We have Razak Olokoba and Adedotun Ajolo here with us in the studio, helping us to make sense of the ministerial nominees that the president has submitted to the National Assembly. The screening is supposed to take place today, and we certainly will be bringing you up to speed with that. All right, Doctor, before we went on the break, I was going to ask you, now let's delve into this members of the opposition in the cabinet. We've seen the name of former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. We've also seen the name of Adebayo Adelabu of the Accord Party from Oyo State. Of course, one would say, and if you look at their pedigrees, beyond the issue of, okay, he or they were in other political parties, if you look at their pedigrees and what they have done, Adelabu was the former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, a very strong, thoroughbred economist and financial expert when it comes to that. Wike, former Governor Wike, was someone who did infrastructure, transformed the whole of Rivers State. He's also a lawyer. But then, at the level, the former President Buhari even gave him an award for the member of the opposition got the award for infrastructure, and so on, tells that they have what it took. But however, speak to us. There are ripples within PDP now from the last, over the weekend that they wait to see if Wike is going to accept the nomination or present himself for, for screening and so on. There are moves whether to dismiss him from the political party and so on. But recall that Wike said he remains a member of the PDP. So talk to us about this dynamics.
Well, for whatever it is, the laughing thing is the fact that some persons are looking at it, that they are waiting if Wike will accept it or not. They already know. As far as Wike is concerned, Wike is part of this government, and he has been part of even the government during the electioneering process and the rest of it. So like we've mentioned earlier on, and like my brother rightly said, it comes to the magnanimity of a president to say, okay, the kind of system we run, to say, okay, I'm bringing a person of the opposition on board and all of that. Again, talking about antecedents, particularly for Wike, we've seen what he has done. As a governor, Wike is the only governor in Nigeria that tried as much as possible to revamp the judiciary, close to the template we have in Lagos State. Wike, I think we used to have a law school in Yenagua. Wike did his best to the point that he ensured that the Council of Legal Education, we have the best campus of Nigerian law school currently in Rivers State, making it 2 law schools that we have in that region alone. Talking about Adelabu, like you said, a thoroughbred financial economics expert. So for me, I commend the president for not just bringing in members of the opposition, but certainly persons that have that credence, persons that have that credential, that we feel they have a whole lot to offer. Let's even look at it. Wike was a minister, state minister of education, before he became substantive ministers. The records are there on how he went about. You see, we've gone through a lot in this country in the last couple of years that we should no longer take any chances. Because at this point, if what we've gone through as a nation, if it is not being properly addressed with this current government, I can tell you that we might never be able to recover from it again and again. You see, we shouldn't have a situation whereby ASU will have to go on strike again in this country. Talk more of ASU being on strike for 7-8 months when there are persons appointed.
That is almost a session.
A session. So
gone.
For PDP, for whichever party, they may take whatever action. It is within their right to say, come on, for going ahead to take up a ministerial position under, it was even all glaring before the election itself. It is within the right of the party to say, okay, for going ahead to be part of this government, you are no longer our member. You are no longer our member, so long they follow the procedure. And maybe at that point, there will be room again to go to court to get a lot of things interpreted. So for me, it is laudable enough. It is commendable enough. Like I said, like I noted earlier on, see, if I can recall, let me not go back to 1999, but at least I can still tell you about 16 years ago. This is the first time we are going to have an ex-governor who just left office on the platform of an opposition party coming up as a member of the cabinet. I'm aware Adelabu even ran for governorship under one of these parties. So it is commendable that it's only bringing us closer to where we should be when we talk about politics and governance. So whatever it is that the party wish to do at this point, well, it is within their right also to take such steps, and the history will be there.
Okay. All right. Now, the issue of former governors, some Nigerians said, well, seeing former governors on the list makes them feel we're recycling people. But on the other hand, analysts have said these are not just common former governors. They are governors who have shown a lot of pedigree, a lot of thoroughness, and they are experts in their own respect. Governor Nyesom Wike, Governor Badaru, Governor Nasir Rufai, you know, as case may be. But what do you make of that, though?
Thank you very much. Quickly, 30 seconds for why opposition. This is not the first time. When we were in the trenches, decisions were taken by Nadeco for Jakande and Abatope to serve under Abacha at that time, though it was denied. And that's not fair on their side. The young people, some of us that were younger at that time, were stoning Jakande, we were stoning Abatope everywhere we see them. Because I read a bit autopsy. I read this with the student power, power to the people. That was an articulate book that also gave us a focus of who we are as activists today. Also part of literatures. So that's not the first time. When Obasanjo came on board, he gave Bolage. Bolage was a member of AD. AD did not suspended him, or they did not send him out of the party. In fact, he attends Afenifere meeting. I attend as a youth wing, a member of Step Determination Group, from the early 90s up until the time we had democracy. We attend, and Ige was never sent out of Afenifere meeting. You know, that's a core traditional. So it's not the first time. And when Buhari also came on board, he sought the service of this our man from African Development Bank, Femi. I've forgotten this. Additional. So this type of model should be adopted by any serious government if you want to succeed. The critic who were saying all sorts of things were saying so. Very few of them had objective reason to criticize you. More than half of them were doing so because they want the government to lose focus. So for me, the government should remain focused. If they have a role for UK to play, and even more numbers of people from other political parties, they should bring them on board. Like I said, we need all hands on deck now. Then as for governors, it is only because we have turned public service into a meal ticket. That's why we are seeing senators, members of House of Rep, governors, as someone that have done something to help. But if it is on the point of service, we won't see it that way. And the earlier political office holder begin to live their life in a way that will see them, they put up a selfless service. So that when they perform a lower responsibility, we always willing to give them a higher responsibility. They should begin to live their life in that manner.
For somebody like Fashola, for
life, and that is why I will also advise the member of the parliament that as long as you continue to have this kind of salary structure for yourself, nobody will see you that you should be there for 30 years, as the case is in the rest of the world. There are people that have been there for 30, 40 years. Yes. But if you have this same salary structure, I'll also be willing to serve that kind of public service or civil service. So for governors who have done well in their state, Wike was the only governor in Nigeria that openly admitted that he collected that intervention form from Buhari.
Very well, sir.
In fact, Nigeria Delta people were amazed. They thought he was campaigning for Buhari until the public went around to find out and discover that he was saying the truth. So we need that kind of courage. And for Asiwaju to have, you know, it cost him his own style, cost him the reason why he was not VP to Atiku. That Wike's style, you know. But anybody that draws Wike closer, you should know that he has a clear intention. Because if you don't do it right, Wike will talk. So for Asiwaju to have brought him, he knows that he doesn't have any skeleton as well. That was how Asiwaju brought him closer. And we need people who will be voice-bearers like that in this government. That the government know very well that don't do anything that is not proper. This man is there watching also. Okay. He has an attitude of trying to...
All right. I understand that the president will be addressing the nation at about 7 p.m. today. So I want everyone to have that. It's a news just getting to us now that the president, Bola Tinubu, will be addressing the nation at 7 p.m. today. Of course, trust that we'll bring you that live telecast when the time is due.
So for 4 or 8, that's a good one. For 4 or 8 years, don't run people out of circulation because he was a governor for 4 or 8 years. You now say he should not perform any public service again. That will not be fair on their side. But I also support the notion to say that someone who failed a smaller responsibility, why are you giving him a higher responsibility? If you see any governor like that that has been given a no responsibility in this, and people say he doesn't merit it, I agree with that argument. But for someone who has done well for 8 years, you don't run him out of circulation. He's willing to serve, he's willing to perform. So it is in line. In fact, in most cases, look at the history of people who have become president in America. They are most of them were former senators.
Biden, Obama.
Most of them were. Obama was a former senator. Biden was a former senator. It's only
former governor,
Trump, former governors.
Yeah.
It was only Trump.
I think Trump is one of the.
It was only Trump that came from the fringes.
That comes from nowhere.
Fringes. He came from the fringes and became the president of America. And maybe that was what was responsible for it. So we need someone who understands the terrain very well. And in politics, it is better to understand the political experience and the history of your nation than qualification at times. Qualification is so secondary. The primary thing is understand what your nation is. Don't impose a very strange style in your country that the country will be in flame. So it's important. So for someone that can assuage the tension in the Niger Delta, should be the person Tinubu should appoint as a minister this time around. And Wike has that capacity. We don't want any militant in Niger Delta. It has been able. Rivers State is a very volatile state. But during his 8 years, you look at what happened. There were peace. And that is part of the calculation. And that was what I was telling you, that I would expect that Ganduje will be in the list. And the innermost mind of the president, he will have logged Ganduje. But because of calculations, it may be, and Ganduje will understand that, okay, let me go for something else. So these are the calculations that is going on. Okay, one qualification. Are you not bothered about our oil in the Niger Delta too? So, and at the moment, the most influential politician from Niger Delta today is Wike. So we need place in that region. From the south. So that's why I said it's not only about garbage out, just assemble some people and send them to the parliament. No. He said something very, very important. We are at a moment where there must no misstep at all. There must be no any misstep. So a few more days, a few more weeks, 1 more month, 1 month, in addition to the time we have spent in expectation for the list to come out for, it's okay by me. And I want Nigeria also to look at it from this perspective, that we must put the right person there. People who offer the right advice that must have a precision and accuracy. People who give the correct advice on the ECOWAS issue. People on correct advice on labor issue. The time for experiment for us in Nigeria is over. Now is the time to do 2 + 2 is 4. All right. We'll get it right.
Okay. 2 + 2
must be 4.
Mathematically,
at this moment.
Must be 4. But
at
however,
this moment.
in politics, 2 + 2 can be 22. It could be anything.
We don't need that kind of mathematics. We don't need that kind of mathematics now.
It's all right.
We don't need that kind of maths now.
But due to the fact that there are calculations, like he said earlier, there are calculations sometimes that some persons may not
that kind of maths.
And so
of saying 2 + 2 is 22. We don't need it now.
It's all right. Let's look into the expectations as it is, because Nigeria, the benchmark Nigerians are setting is very high, really very high. Now, what do you see when it comes to matching some of these persons with portfolios that you think, if this person is here, it could take this further, and so on? What are you projecting? What are you seeing?
Well, let me take it off for my constituency.
Okay.
Which is law.
Law,
exactly. You see, when we saw the name Lateef Fagbemi, with due respect to persons, and I believe the person of Mr. Olokobam's mind will understand what I'm talking about. The Attorney General of Federation that we've had, like 2, 3 Attorney General that we've had in the recent time, they are not like Attorney General of old. In the sense that I think we had more of politicians occupying that office than core litigation persons and lawyers. And when I saw Lateef Fagbemi, name coming up. Before the issue of Lateef Fagbemi, we'll be hearing a form of news, so person from Kwara, and that person from Oyo, and all of that. And when I saw Lateef Fagbemi, because it's so certain, there is nothing confusing about this list as to who is likely going to be the Attorney General. Unlike the first time of Buhari, that we have like 3 or 4 SANs. But as it stands, I think Lateef Fagbemi is the only person, is the only SAN. So it's so certain that, and interestingly, I think that's about the only office. I'm still going to talk about that. That's about the only office that the Constitution makes specific provisions as to the function of the office. Like Mr. Lukoba said earlier on, for ministers, those are just offices. You need more of that person's temperament. You need more of that person's character to succeed as a minister, not professional qualification and expectations. Once you have a
But doesn't that also matter? Because some people would argue that, of course, your character is shaped by all of that thing in the past, and then that is what you bring on the table.
That's what he's saying now.
Basically, that's what I'm saying. Then basically, what are we talking about? You are talking about Minister of Power. You are talking about Minister of Works. We've all said so much about Wike. Wike, for all you care, is a lawyer. Apart from talking about how well he did for the judiciary, an area where you cannot, even his enemies, his opponents admit, you cannot take it from Wike, is when it comes to infrastructure in Rivers State. So, you see, a ministerial position is more of personality, it's more of what character are you. The people who are doing the work, they are not the people. What makes up a ministry is they are what we call technocrats. They are there in the ministry. You have the directors, you have the permanent secretary. Those are the people that makes up a ministry. So in supervising the activities, it borders more on character, it borders more on your diplomacy, it borders more on your firmness and principle. And let me tell you this. To be a successful, you will only need a president to be a successful minister. But I can tell you, the president can have as many as possible persons to be his ministers. You have hundreds of Wike. So the man at what still determines the success rate of a minister is the president. Because there's nothing you want to do as a minister that you don't seek the approval of the president. So coming back to speaking on the offices, like I said, the area of my constituency, which has been, like when I saw Lateef Fagbemi, in the last couple of years, we've had more of politicians. But within the legal profession, when you want to talk about lawyers, Lateef Fagbemi, these are the people that gives you the, let me use the term, the vibe of what was in the likes of F.R.A. Williams, the Richard Akintola of Oaths, his courage, his demeanor, his personality. So I can see, I'm seeing a cabinet, I'm seeing an Attorney General of Federation that, to them, people, when we are talking about F.R.A. Williams, when we are talking people of his class, when anything that is against the rule of law should be scary to those personalities. So, and I can see a shift that Nigeria is going to witness in the next couple of months from what we were having in the last 8 years, in the last 16 years. When you are talking about core practitioners, core legal practitioners. So it's talking about the office, the expectations. Like the El-Rufai, you don't need to be told. He was a minister before he became the governor. He was a minister in 1999. He was you know the way he handled FCT. So expectations from these persons has to do so much with their personality, their character, their person, their firmness. So it doesn't really, let's take away our mind from the professional, aside from the maybe Minister of Health, Attorney General of Federation. I don't think constitutionally there's an expectation, there's a requirement for
it's just administrative.
Very well.
All right. Razak, the chief of staff, when he was, on the day he was submitting the list to the National Assembly, said that they expect to be some level of restructuring. Recall that the Orosanye report had recommended that they should merge some MD ministries, departments, and agencies of government, to create some level of prudence, detach some, merge others that the works are sometimes clashing and at cross purposes and so on and so forth. Now, the chief of staff said that there were going to be some rejuvenation and some restructuring of some of those ministries, regalvanize them in such a way that they can be more effective. What are you seeing in that light?
Well, is it when we introduce the political restructuring into the lexicon of Nigerian politics, we were now given the opportunity to give it a depth of what we meant by that. And we are always in that kind of a mood. Once someone bring a concept on board, you take it away from him and give it a flesh. I hope the kind of restructuring we are talking about is not what they think we were saying. That's not what we are saying, though. The kind of restructuring we are talking about is completely different from that. We are saying that there should be devolution of power. That's what we're talking about. And we're talking about restructuring. We are not talking about someone who say they didn't even understand what is restructuring, whether it is regionalism. No. That is change of political. If you are talking about regionalism, it means you don't get the understanding of restructuring. We can only restructure what you are practicing already. We are talking about the restructuring of federalism that we are practicing now. That is this unitary system of government, and there must be devolution of power from the federal government to the state government. So merging ministries together is like saying that we need to do something about security sector, and the president is buying more guns and bullets. Whereas what we should be talking about is there must be a security architecture that will give governors, the states, Nigerians, the law, enabling law for them to be able to secure themselves. So I don't know what they had in mind for merging it, because what led to duplication of office is because federal government does not have the capacity to carry out all the things in the list of the exclusive list of the federal government. There's no capacity for them. So they thought it was because it was not well manned. They now create agencies. That one will not work. They created agencies. It didn't work. What was the reason why our thieves cannot be brought to book that led to creation of FCC, ICPC? It's not because the existing law is not working. It's because the judiciary is not totally independent. There's overbearing influence of executive on judiciary. So in the notion of Obasanjo, he created the FCC. He created ICPC. So the president had in mind, he knew, it was clear about what we wanted. He just wanted to settle down. So I'm not in any doubt about what the government needs to do about that. I'm not in any doubt. He understands what he needs to do. And I know very well that he will do it. And that is my persuasion to Nigeria, that before everything will fall in place, we have said it. And I'm not saying it on behalf of the government. Now, I'm saying from the strength of the knowledge that I have, that gestation period for us to be getting a clearer picture is 2 years. Anybody that wants to get angry because of that can get angry.
Okay.
So before the security system of this country gets better, before we'll be able to find the economy, the health sector, everything, it's not an immediate thing. Yeah. And that's why the labor that is going to strike on Wednesday must look at things the way some of us are also looking at it. The next thing is not protest. If the protest is hijacked and led to something else, we are going to hold NSA responsible for it.
It's all right. And that's part of the things a lot of people are advising NLC. Watch it at this time when you still can. We have to leave you here now because of the time that has been spent. Razak Olukoba, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, it's a pleasure being with you.
I did not too much, Lord. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
coming.
Mark. The 1 hour is like 30 minutes.
You have a lot of things to say.
That's how it is. And it looks like we've not even scratched this off. All right. Let's remind you that the breaking news will